everyone, my name is NewFlowerGirl, but you can call me Demi, and welcome back to another Aftertalk video. Today we're going to be talking about probably one of the most craziest races I've ever seen in Formula 1 this season. And that is, of course, the Brazilian Grand Prix. Man, it was chaos. This is the only Aftertalk bit I am going to do, because MotoGP is finished. Yeah, they're done. So yeah, now we just have to talk about Formula 1 for the last couple of races for this week and the week after. So yeah, this weekend was the last sprint weekend. So yeah, the way they did things were different. So basically on Friday they had qualifying and practice, not in that order, but they had practice and then qualifying. Saturday they had practice, second practice, and then they had sprint race, aka sprint quali. And on Sunday they had the race, and I watched the driver's parade, and I saw that Sebastian Vettel got driven around by his mentee, Mick Schumacher, which was super cute. I put it in my Discord. It's such an adorable moment. So yeah. But FP1. Checo Perez was the fastest. Least laps driven were, I believe, 24 by George Russell. And the most laps driven were 32 by Yuki Tsunoda, Nicholas Latifi, and that was it. Sergio Perez was fastest with a 1 minute 11.853. Yeah, this was a dry session. Now we're gonna go on to Q1, which was a wet qualifying. Well, normal qualifying rules there. So basically, the last 5 they get eliminated. And those were, in Q1, Mick Schumacher, Yuki Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas, Guan Yu Zhou, and Nicholas Latifi. Lando Norris was fastest with a 1 minute 13.106. These laps driven were, I believe, by Fernando Alonso, 9 laps. And most laps were 13 by Valtteri Bottas, Nicholas Latifi, Lawrence Stroll, Pierre Gasly, who is on 10 penalty points. Most of them weren't even his fault, but alright. Alexander Albon, Kevin Magnussen, and Lando Norris. Also worth a mention, on race day it was Lando's birthday. Yeah, it was his birthday. He's now 23 years old. Q2. Let's go. It wants to load. The people who got eliminated were Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, Sebastian Vettel, Pierre Gasly, and Alexander Albon. Fastest was our Super Max with a 1 minute 10.881. Also worth a mention, Pierre Gasly in Q1 was the first driver to go onto the slicks. And in Q2, they actually did the session on slick tires. Most laps driven were, well, let's start with least. 18 by Fernando Alonso. And most laps driven, 24 by Lance Stroll and Pierre Gasly. Max Verstappen fastest, I already said that. But then Q3, I still cannot believe that this happened. So this one, this qualifying part, it was pouring it down so badly that they just could not continue. But the session kept going. So after a couple of minutes, Kevin Magnussen was at the top. And Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez, they had to go, but no one did. No one was able to get to the time of Kevin Magnussen, which was a 1 minute 11.674 giving him his first ever pole position and has his first ever pole position. So that's insane. Most laps driven were 4 by Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez, and the rest they basically did 3. So, we're gonna go over the grid in a bit, but now we're gonna go to free practice 2. Don't know what happened there. When all of a sudden Esteban Ocon is at the top with a 1 minute 14.604. I was at work at the time, so I couldn't see it, couldn't watch it. Actually, I got home and then free practice was finished, and I was like, Esteban first. I was like, what the heck? How did it happen? Another mention. Logan Sargent replaced Alexander Albon just to get his super license to hopefully race next year. And I believe in Abu Dhabi he's gonna do a practice again. And right now he's at the point where if he finishes in the top 5 of the championship, he gets his super license and can race from Williams next year. But it's very close. Like, he's only like a few points ahead of the person in P4 in the championship. And people in 4, 5 and 6 have the exact same points. So, it's gonna be close. Yeah, he drove 28 laps. Not sure if that was the most. No, if that was the least amount. No, that was Lando Norris. Not a mention for Lando. He had food poisoning coming into the weekend, so he was feeling sick. But he did a well. He did a well job. He did a great job. He was feeling alright on Friday. So yeah, he was feeling good. He was feeling good enough to qualify. He was feeling good enough to do the race, and yeah, it was all fine. Most laps driven. Let's see. I see a 40. Nope, never mind. 44 by Sebastian Vettel. And least laps driven, Lando Norris. I said that. Yeah. Now we're gonna go to the grid for the sprint quali. Front row, Kevin Magnussen and Max Verstappen. Second, George Russell and Lando Norris. Third row, Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon. Fourth row, Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. Great job. That's just asking for trouble, really. Putting them two on the same row. Then on the fifth row, we had Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc. Tight runner-up contenders, they both are. Then on the 6th row we had Alexander Albon and Pierre Gasly. 7th row Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo. On the 8th row we have both Canadians, Nicholas Latifi and Lance Stroll, not in that order, of course. On the 9th row we had the Alfa Romeos of Guan Yu Zhou and Valtteri Bottas. And lastly we had Yuki Tsunoda and Mick Schumacher. So basically the entire grid was a It was a Haas sandwich. Yeah, that was the joke. I'm not sure if you guys got the joke, but yeah. So yeah, let's have a look at the sprint quali. Alex Albon retired his car, basically just said bye-bye. Then 19th we had Nicholas Latifi, who was basically 20 seconds behind Fernando Alonso. Nicholas, it's a sprint race. How have you done that? Well, then of course Fernando Alonso in 18th. It was not his fault. He had contact and lost his his front wing, and he basically had to get a new one. And in a bit, that takes quite a long time. It's normal tire change. That is between a good tire change stop. That's between the 2 and the 3 seconds. But with a front wing change, that's close to 5 seconds or even higher. because you have more time to change the tires. So, yeah. 17th, Esteban Ocon. 16th, Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll actually got a penalty, but I cannot remember for what he got penalty. Oh yeah, he pushed Vettel off the track, coming out of the Senna S's, which are turns 1, 2, and 3. Dangerous driving, dangerous defending. That man just does not look into his mirrors. Then 15th, we have Yuki Tsunoda. 14th, Valtteri Bottas. 13th, Guan Yu Zhou. 12th, Mick Schumacher. That man basically gained 5 places on the open in the first few laps. I think Haas need to keep him, because this is amazing. Then 11th, we had Daniel Ricciardo. 10th, Pierre Gasly. 9th, Sebastian Vettel. And then 8th in the points, because sprint quali only number 1 to number 8 gets points. Kevin Magnussen with points. Lando Norris in 7th. In 6th, Charles Leclerc. 5th, Sergio Perez. 4th, Max Verstappen. 3rd, Lewis Hamilton. 2nd, Carlos Sainz. And 1st, George Russell. How many people did not see George Russell coming to basically how many people did not see him coming? Yeah. Fastest laps. It is George Russell with fastest lap with a 1 minute 14.233. Then the grid 2, it is basically the results of the sprint qualifying. But then of course Carlos Sainz, he had an engine penalty, so he dropped back to 7th. Yuki Tsunoda started from the pits. So yeah, that's basically your grid. Let's go to the race. Well, let's just say 2 safety cars. And they were both for McLaren. One of them was with a Haas though, with a poleman for the sprint race. Basically, Ricciardo spun. He basically tagged Magnussen, and Magnussen he spun around and basically gave karma to Daniel Ricciardo by hitting him on the rear tire, and basically hit him out of the race. So it's like instant karma moment. But as both drivers got out of the car, you could clearly see that they weren't like, you bastards. They weren't like that. They were like, you okay, mate? Like, I'm sorry I got you out of this race. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, you could read that from the body language. Like, Ricciardo was like throwing his head backwards, like, you could see that. That's really awesome. And then Lando was the other retirement. Only completed 50 laps. On his birthday. They really should keep a chair for him every time he retires. Yeah. Something else that happened. After the first restart, George Russell was leading. He dominated the race, guys. George Russell was leading the Grand Prix, and he waited till the very last minute to go back to racing. And this made Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen crash into each other. And apparently Max got looked at he got basically seen as a mistake. While he basically had the inside line. He had the line there. And Hamilton just turned in. I know he's citizen of honor, or honorary citizen of Brazil now, but come on, you can't put him in favour. I mean, we don't do that for Max Verstappen in Zandvoort. We don't do that for Charles in Monaco, or for Perez in Mexico, Why all of a sudden should we do that for Lewis Hamilton in Brazil? Like, what? Why? Why? Give me a reason. This caused Max actually to drop back really, really far. But not on the race, because that man is a lion. He fought back to P6. Another thing that happened, Charles Leclerc got spun around and hit the wall. That was actually Lando's fault, according to the FIA. I still do not agree. Kinda. But Charles was actually lost for a long, long time. And he fought his way back to P4. Pierre Gasly, P14, is still not. Still didn't get a ban. I think he's gonna take those penalty points with him to Alpine. Like stay under the radar. Like under the radar, you know. Yeah. There was this weird moment where Perez. Well, it was this weird moment where Max had to let Perez pass on the last lap if he couldn't get to Fernando Alonso, but Max didn't do that. But Max doesn't do team orders. And he said that before in the summer, to be specific. He said, like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not letting him pass. I mean, if he desperately needs to get past me, then he should overtake me, like every other normal driver. I mean, I don't blame him for saying that. I mean, team orders, it can get into your head. Like, it can basically limit your capabilities. And, yeah. So, if I were in Max's place, I would have said the exact same thing. But then I would have said, like, if he needs to get past me, then let him overtake me in a normal way, like normal drivers. You know? But this caused quite a lot of things, and people are actually ripping apart, putting scissors into Max Verstappen merchandise they bought, and throwing away their hats they bought of Max Verstappen. Like, do you all of a sudden hate him? What is wrong with those people? Like, why? I mean, he isn't Lewis Hamilton with 7 world titles and more than 100 pole positions and race wins. But, like, come on. Don't be mean. And also don't be mean to Alpine, because after the sprint race they received a lot of hate. A lot of toxic messages. Which should not be allowed in the sport. I mean, if you want to be toxic, then just get out. Just there's the door. Just go. There's the door. If you want to be toxic, there's the door. So, now that all the toxic people have left, we can continue. George Russell dominated the race. His first ever race victory. Full-on race victory, because sprint races don't actually count as race victory. Funny enough. Well, he did actually win the sprint race. Yeah. In my opinion, he did rather well. I was hoping to see Russell and Hamilton fight in the last few laps, but they didn't. It was disappointing. But yeah, Carlos Sainz third. Now we basically, all the drivers that don't have a victory yet are Lance Stroll, Guan Yu Zhou, Mick Schumacher, Alexander Albon, Nicholas Latifi, Yuki Tsunoda, Lando Norris, and Kevin Magnussen. So, like, how many is there? So, like, Valtteri did get victory. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We now have 8 drivers on the grid who don't have a race victory out of the 20. So basically 12 drivers now have a race victory. And this year we got Carlos Sainz and George Russell added to that list. That's very fun. That's very nice. Next weekend it is the Grand Prix of Abu Dhabi. It's the last race of the season. It's almost done, guys. We're almost finished. We just have to get through that, and it's gonna be tight for P1, for P2 and P3 in the championship. So basically, whoever does best in this race between Perez and Leclerc, they get P2 in the championship because they're both at 290 points. It's nerve-wracking. Oh my god. Yeah. I'm not happy with the results, but like, we gotta deal with it. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching this after talk. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you are a toxic person, there's the door. Please leave. Don't come back unless you've changed, because people can change. But yeah, like this video while you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new. But that's it from me for now, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye!